Welcome to the Motherhood Reimagined podcast, where we celebrate all paths to motherhood. I'm your host, Sarah Kowalski. Whether you're contemplating becoming a single mother, trying to be one, or already raising kids, this is the place for inspirational stories, expert advice, and informative guides celebrating those who didn't follow the rules as they share the heartache and joys of their paths. Be informed, be inspired, because you do not need to feel alone. So I wanted to make a couple of announcements. So you've probably heard me talk about the Motherhood Reimagined Tribe on this podcast. It's my new membership site, and my signature support groups are going live later this week to a select group of founding members. So up until now, I've been referring to these small, intimate groups as the Motherhood Reimagined Tribe Masterminds. And I wanted to let you all know that I just decided to change that name. And I know that's confusing, and I apologize. But I realized that it doesn't totally convey what these groups are. So when I led a group like this before in the past, women really wanted to continue indefinitely. We had a 6-month group, and at the end of 6 months, they were still trying or still thinking, and they were really bummed that we had to close the group. So this time, I want to make these groups available to you on an ongoing basis. You can subscribe and stay for as long as you like or as short as you like. So they're really not masterminds, which usually have a finite start and end date. So this week, I'm launching the Tribe Signature Level Membership. And right now, you can join a Tribe Signature Thinkers Triers group and a Tribe Signature Egg Donor Support group. And again, what these are is small, intimate groups of women that will be at the same stage of the journey as you, either thinkers or triers or contemplating or in the process of egg donation. And together we'll have weekly video calls during which time we can check in for emotional support, get logistical support, get the support and wisdom of the other women in the group. And then there'll also be an online private forum that's off of Facebook. It will be on the membership site. You can access it through your phone or your computer. It operates very similar to Facebook, that you can tag people and respond to comments, but it's nice and private and not on Facebook. And then finally, the platform has tons of done-for-you research on logistical questions, as well as thoughts and reflections to help you process the emotional questions that come up on this journey for most women. This will shortcut the process for you greatly and help you really dive in and address those concerns that come up for so many women who are making the choice to have a baby on their own or making the choice to use an egg donor. So for a limited time, I'm enrolling founding members at a really reduced rate. That's $59 a month. And really and truly, this is such a steal to get a ton of access to me as well as other women in the group. So you just need to hop on over to my site, motherhoodreimagined.com, find the button for Tribe, and you can fill out the application, and I'll send you the order form as soon as we go live. I'm only taking 10 women, so as soon as I get to 10, I'm capping it, and there will be no more founding member rate. And also, if you sign up before February 28th, you'll get a 45-minute free coaching session with me. Again, if I'm capped at 10 or if I already have 10 women, that offer goes away. So I'm only doing that until I get to 10 women or February 28th. So the full site will be launching. The light membership, the signature, and the VIP levels will be launching in mid-April, but the special pricing won't be available then. So get in on the ground floor as a founding member now to a signature support group. I look forward to seeing you there. Hello. Today I'm joined by Signe Fjord. How are you today, Signe?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to talk to me. I know it's late where you're at.
Thank you.
So can you start by telling me a little bit about what you expected for your life when you were a child and you thought about what your life would look like when you were an adult?
Yeah. I think I was like most children. I loved fairy tales. And I loved that my grandmother was telling me all these fairy tales that, the prince and the princess lived happily ever after. So I guess I always imagined that a family would look like a mother and a father and a child. And even though I'm sort of brought up in a divorced family where my parents divorced when I was 5, I didn't think about alternative family structures or modern family types. I was sort of, okay, I need a family, I need to find a man. That was what it looked like. And then I imagined I would have 4 children and I will be married and live happily ever after. Very traditional.
And then can you tell us what your path to motherhood ended up looking like?
Yeah. Some of it was sort of as the original plan or hope or path, because I did end up getting married when I was 28. I then got divorced when I was 32. And I was totally panicking about, is my dream now lost forever? So my story was just in short, I dated. I tried to find someone to create a family with because I couldn't imagine going solo, until one day I thought, okay, I have kissed enough frogs. None of these frogs have turned into a prince yet. And these frogs, they actually look like more toads now than frogs, and I'm just done. So someone told me about this woman in Denmark that had actually got pregnant with the help from a sperm donor from a sperm bank, and she was now a solo mom. And it sort of rocked my world. I was in shock the first time I heard about it. And then I met this woman and I saw her family where she was a single mom and she has a lovely child. And then I just realized, wow, this is a real family. And then I just decided to do what she did. It was a long process and a very long decision-making process. But yeah, I ended up having help from a midwife and a sperm donor from a sperm bank. And then I had my daughter. Yeah.
And how old is your daughter now?
She is almost 7. Yeah, she's born in 2012.
Wow. And you said a little bit that it was, a long and difficult process. So what would you say you had to let go of in order to embrace this idea of moving forward alone?
I basically had to let go of the dream about having this nuclear family, having that traditional old-fashioned dream. And looking back at it now, I was like, why did it feel so lonely? Why was it so sad? Why did I feel like a failure or something? But I guess it's because the society sort of give you this norm. You're supposed to go to school, then you have to get an education, then you have to get a home, and then there's sort of expectations that you're not really aware of it. You're just following, whatever society and what's in the Hollywood movies. They need to find someone where, I just didn't have the imagination growing up that it could be, like in reality. I was more like into that fairy tale version. So one day I thought, okay, let's just be realistic here and forget about the fairy tale versions and what could be a good family for me.
Do you know how you got there? What allowed you to finally put that fairy tale down?
Enough. My heart had been broken so many times trying to, get a relationship that would be stable enough to base a family upon it. So one day I just said, this is enough. There might not be this ideal man or this, not even that it had to be ideal, just, a compatible life partner. I just realized, that he might not exist, but I'm not going to give up on the dream of having a family. I'm not going to give up on the dream of being a mom. And one day I just had enough and I said, that's it. I'm calling the sperm bank. I'm going to do this on my own. Yeah. So it was more of, it was not a positive choice at the time. It was not like something, I didn't feel empowered or anything. I felt like this was just the only way that I would ever become a mom.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people sort of really hate the term single mom by choice is because of that. Like at the time, it really does not feel like a choice. And yeah, I understand that. I think a lot of women can relate to that. You kind of referenced this kind of how you thought about it before and how it seemed so sad and like a failure and whatnot. And you kind of alluded to how you think about it now.
Yeah.
Can you say a little about how you feel about being a single mom now?
Yeah, I feel completely different about it. Because if I could give myself some advice, 10 years back in time, I would just say, be happy from the beginning, celebrate that you had made a decision. I want to start a family and not see it as a failure. So that's that's what I sort of regret or would have done differently today, is just be realistic. This is a wonderful thing. I'm starting to create, I'm bringing a new person into this world. So I would approach it completely different. Yeah, as a celebration.
And you said you used a sperm donor from a bank. Can you talk a little bit
Yes.
about that process and how you pick the bank, how you pick the donor?
Well, I live in Denmark, so there's not, so much choice. So I basically just went to the world's largest sperm bank, which is here in Denmark. It was more difficult than I imagined, because I thought, you'll just pick a sperm donor. But there are so many to choose from. And it reminded me a lot about online dating, which, I was really fed up at the time. So I actually had help with one of my friends from law school. And we just sat down one day and went through all these profiles and just had a giggle about it, where she was sort of allowing me to just be picky and, take sort of all this seriousness out of it. And then one day I had to change sperm donor a few times as well during the process. I didn't get pregnant the first time, and not the second time, and the third time. And then that sperm donor, he had sort of ran out, or he got into quarantine or something. So I had to pick another one. And it was, I know it sounds crazy, Sarah, but when I found this particular sperm donor, I actually felt like this was just a match. I just knew, wow, there might actually be a soulmate for me. He's just a sperm donor. Wow. I was like, if I could meet this person, I would definitely date him. I think there was one thing I didn't like about him. It was like his taste of music or something like that. But the rest was like, yeah, I want that person. And thank God I could just, get the sperm. I don't need to date him at all. But I felt this. I really liked him somehow.
That's great. And then were you doing IUIs to get pregnant?
Yeah, just 4 times, and then I got pregnant. Yeah.
Great.
At the time, it felt like a nightmare because I didn't expect that it would be difficult to become pregnant. My entire life up until then, I sort of tried to avoid being pregnant. And then you think, okay, now I've gone, went through insemination process and I must be pregnant. But no, not the first time. That was a big shock to me. I wasn't prepared that it could be difficult at all to become pregnant. So that's one of those things where, you get wiser eventually. So looking back, 4 rounds of just insemination was not a big deal. I can see that when I talk to other solo moms and single moms around the world. So now I feel blessed and lucky, but at the time it was tough.
Yeah. And just to go back to the sperm donor for a moment, any other advice you would give women who are picking a sperm donor? I know you had to do it a couple of times. Also, any how the process changed for you each time?
Oh, I think, we can talk about that for an hour, at least, because there's so many things to consider. I think my best advice would be, it's okay to be picky. You don't have to just take someone who is there. If you don't like what's in that sperm bank, you might actually, go to another sperm bank, because there are many other options. And it's like if you go into a bar, you wouldn't just take, whoever is in there with you, home and then start creating a baby. So it's okay to be choosy and picky. And on the other hand, I also met some women who didn't choose. They just asked their doctor to, to choose something for them. And I will say, okay, if that's how you can do it, then do that. I would probably advise women to get a lot of detail, if it's possible to get, an extended profile or something, because your child might appreciate that eventually. So if it's too difficult for you, get help, but then get as much information so that you won't regret that later on.
Yeah. And one thing I like to ask people is sort of the difference between how you felt about your donor and the whole process and the significance of the donor before you had a baby and after, and as your child is growing up.
Oh, good question, because in the process, it felt like a huge thing that, you just selected this sperm donor. And then in real life, when you have your child, it doesn't really matter. I love my daughter so much. And if she has, blue eyes or brown eyes or green eyes, it doesn't really matter. So just understand, while you sit there and you have to pick a donor, it's enormous. And it's just, as soon as I had my baby, in my arms, I forgot all about the sperm donor. So, there's so many other things that's more important at that time.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's kind of fascinating how torturous and significant it felt, like the most significant decision I had ever made in my entire life. And then the second time around, it felt like a little less significant and a little kind of less bizarre. And then once your baby gets there, you're like, oh, what? Huh? What?
Yeah.
Sperm donor? What? So, yeah. Do you have any regrets about how you became a mother?
No, not at all. The only thing I regret is that I waited so long, because I have tried to have another child, and I'm too old. And now the age gap would be so big. I think my daughter is turning 7, and I'm getting older. The grandparents, my father died when my daughter was 3 years old. So the sort of the support network is just not the same. And yeah, honestly, I'm getting older, and I don't have as much energy as when I was, if I could have been a younger mom. So that's the only thing I regret, is that I waited that long. Why did I waste so much time in the dating jungle? Why did I have to go through so many heartbreaks? Why didn't I just think, hey, I want to become a mom? What are the options? Instead of thinking I need to succeed in a relationship before I can have my family. Look at it from reality instead. How many versions of a family is there? And there are so many versions to be a real family. And I wish I've learned that in school, instead of you've been indoctrinated about, this is what a family looks like. So I wish I would have been a bit more creative and had more courage when I was younger.
Yeah. Like, I know you work with solo moms as well. How do you help women get that courage or that creativity, do you think?
Well, I do coaching sessions. I do network evenings where they can just come and we can talk about these topics and just take all the BS out of it, to be honest. And I just tell them, just completely honest, look at reality, don't wait too long. Yeah, just do it, basically.
Yeah. And how do you think your path to motherhood has in any way changed or altered the relationship you have with your child? So, like, does having a sperm donor as a father, or a biological father, I should say, do you feel like that's changed your relationship with your child in any way?
Well, that's a really good question, because I've never tried anything else, Sarah. So how can I know? Honestly,
good question.
I could imagine. But I always just figured, think about the positive aspects of motherhood in that way, where I feel so blessed, for instance, that I didn't have this child in a co-parenting arrangement. And, I totally understand if other women or people choose to do that. I love being a mom so much, and I feel so privileged and happy and blessed that I can be with her every day. I see some of my friends and family, when they get divorced, and some of them lose custody over their child, or they can only see their child, 1 week, and then they have 1 week off, and they have to go through, that as well. You're a lawyer, so if once you're a lawyer, you've seen all these terrible court cases about how they fight over the children, and they can't, negotiate and be friends. And so there are so many positive aspects in being a single mom, or a single parent, or solo mom, a sole parent, that I think we have a very intense and loving and great relationship. And I just feel so blessed and also I think that it's, in some ways, the parenting might be much easier, because I don't have to discuss with another person about important things, what type of school do I want my child to go to, and what sort of medical program, or is he allowed to eat sugar or not, as all these things. Is just, I'm the sole parent, I'm the decider, and this is what we're gonna do. It's really that simple. Compared to other families, we live a very stress-free life. There's no obligations to, an in-law parents, that we have to do all these parties, or we have to attend things. My daughter get a lot of attention from me, and she's the love of my life. My life is not on standby, I would say, but it's just not as important as, she started school this year, and it was huge just after the summer. And, I'm this mom, I'm taking my child to school every day, and there's, morning singing lessons, or, there's sort of every morning, the entire school, they meet for morning singing. And, I'm standing there as the typical parent, every morning, where some of the other parents, where they're like two parents, they have to rush to work because, they have to earn all this money and they need to have a big house. And where I'm just, I don't need that. I decide what I want, and we just need a house, and I rent an apartment, and that's fine. That I don't have to compete with other families or anything like that. And yeah, I think that's nice that I set the standards, and you probably know what I mean. But also it's not just easy, and it's a lot of hard work as well, which we all know. And you're the sole breadwinner. Is that what you call? Like, I have to earn the money at the same time. I have to protect the child. I have to, the whole thing. I'm the one. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. So what would you say is the most surprising thing about how things turned out, or about being a mother?
I think in terms of the process in becoming pregnant, the most surprising thing was that, it was not easy. And even though I only had to go 4 rounds of this easy insemination. I didn't even use any hormones or anything. I was just total natural insemination, just get the sperm, defrost it, and then had it done. That was a shock. It was a complete shock to me that, it was not the first time. And I guess that's just the lack of interest in the topic, or a lack of wisdom in terms of that. So I think women who are listening here should take that seriously, because many of them think, I'm just waiting, I'm waiting. Yeah, and you become 37, 38, 39, 40 years old, and they still expect that the body can actually produce a baby, where I think, you be a bit more modest about your own biology. And yeah, that was the biggest aha.
Yeah, that's a topic obviously near and dear to my heart, because I felt like I was completely misled into believing that you could get pregnant easily in your 40s, and you can't. So I think it's a huge topic. I mean, and I think it is, like, we spend our life trying not to get pregnant, and then nobody gives you the flip side of the equation.
Yeah. And then also because, you hear in the news, this Hollywood actress now turning 38 is having a baby, or, now this 55-year-old male superstar is becoming a father for the 7th time. So you sort of have all these hopes, and they're not, and obviously then you have a friend who's, getting pregnant at 36 in her first round. So yeah, it's a lottery, and it's just so uncertain, and you're so vulnerable when you just, you wait.
Yeah. We sort of talked about this already, but in hindsight, would you do anything differently if you know what you know now? Either in how you got pregnant, or in just the choice in general, or any of it?
I think I would have worked around my mindset to begin with, and turning this into, this is a really good idea, and look at all the positive things, and not see this as a plan B. I wouldn't see this as a failure. I wouldn't see myself as, okay, if I can't have this fairy tale, this is a second best chance. I would reframe it in my mind. I'm saying, I'm going to celebrate this from day one. And that's also what I'm telling the women, that hire me as a coach. I'm saying, work on your mindset. You're okay. It's okay for you to be celebrated, because, we've probably been to many weddings, with all our friends, and then we have to celebrate that they become pregnant, and we have to celebrate, have a baby shower, and then the first child is born, and we give them gift, all that things, where just look at your family as equal from the beginning. And also, I would think, what would be an ideal situation for the child to sort of be conceived into? Instead of thinking as, I wish I had a boyfriend. And just allow yourself that this could be the most optimal way to becoming a family for you. And then don't think about what other people do, because we never know in the end, what would be the best thing. This is the best thing, because this is what happened, and this is what we got. Be grateful and appreciate it from the beginning.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's another of my crusades, is to make it not be a plan B, that I think it should be a legitimate choice that women consider. as
Yeah.
one of the options from the outset, that you could,
Yes.
having a child alone is an option instead of
Yes.
just the like, oh, all these other ways didn't work, so I guess I'll do this. Because I think, like you, when you were talking about how much you love being a single mother, I feel so similarly that it really is streamlined in many ways. And
Yes.
certainly everything does fall to me, and that is intense, but yet there's also this way that it's streamlined where there aren't debates about things, and there is no expectation that someone else is going to help me. So there's no disappointment, and there's no sort of like cycle of hope and disappointment that I'm constantly getting rocked by. I just sort of know it all falls to me,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
hard, but it's also simpler in a way, which is hard to explain to people. But I think from what you were saying, it sounded like you feel very similarly.
Yes, absolutely, Sarah. Yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone if they were struggling to become a mother, or wondering, if they had a completely different path than, they had that fairy tale and they're sort of getting older and trying to decide what to do next? I know you've spoken in many ways about it, but anything else you'd like to mention?
Yeah. Again, I guess back to the mindset that think about all families are real families. Whatever version that you end up with, you're equal as a family, and it's the right family for you.
Mm-hmm. That's really lovely. And in what ways has being a mother been totally different than you expected, or sort of its own reimagining?
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't even know what to expect. And it's because it's just so much more wonderful than I could have ever imagined. My entire life, I've had a wonderful life, up until I became a mother. But as soon as I become a mother, it just didn't really matter a thing. Sitting there as a mom, and you see your baby for the first time, it's where my life started. It sounds maybe a bit corny here, but it was just, having gone through law school, have been traveling the world, been married, all these things, scuba diving, all, what had been good up until then. It was just, it felt like pointless, honestly. It felt like it was just a waste of time. But I also think I've sort of been interested in, personal development or self-help and spiritual work and all this, traveling the world and trying to figure out, what's going on with me and who am I. And I just see all this, meditation practices and, mindfulness and all the things that I learned. It's just been prepping me to become a mother. So, people often ask me, aren't you doing any meditation courses anymore, Signe? And you should still learn. I was like, I practice every day, staying calm and being centered, being a single mom. There's so many things you need to do. This is like, spirituality in real life. I don't need sit, I like meditating and relaxing is not that, but, I don't need to go on a silent retreat or to find out who I am. I just need to get the household running. I need to do lunch boxes again tomorrow. I need to buy groceries. I need to pay the electricity bill. There's so many things that you just have to do all the time. So just staying centered in all that, that's the best personal development I've ever had. And my daughter, she's very smart, and she's challenging me in a good way all the time, to love myself more. That was actually a big surprise for me, Sarah. I don't know if you experienced that with your child as well, but if I sort of, I'm tired or I talk down about myself, she'll correct me and say, I can see that, it hurt her because I'm her mom. I'm her one and only still, she's only just about turning 7. So she's not starting to think that there's anything wrong with me or that I have, been a bad parent or anything. I'm just, I'm the love of her life too. And we just really enjoy having this wonderful, loving relationship with each other. And that's been surprising for me because I'm not sort of brought up in a family like that at all. I'm born in 1974 and, your parents are just a product of whatever their parents are. So in that way, it's been so much better than I had ever imagined or hoped for. And it keeps getting better every day. I guess I'm surprised about that as well. When I saw my daughter for the first time, I thought, oh my God, my heart exploded from happiness and love. And I just felt, wow, this is the biggest moment. But Sarah, I feel that every morning when I wake up and my daughter is there, I feel, wow, my heart is expanding a little bit more. and we just live a very simple life where, she goes to school and I work from home, and I love working from home because it gives me the freedom. For instance, one day I can pick her up early after school if she's been a bit tired, or for instance, here on Wednesdays, we do yoga classes where I bring one of her friends and I take the kids to yoga classes. I just love it. I remember I had a gay friend who asked me a few years ago, but Signe, do you have a life? And I was like, I believe I have a life, but he was married with a man, and they did not want to have children, and they were living in a big city in Canada and traveling the world, and being on a safari in Africa. And I was like, I'm thinking, like, do you guys have a life? I mean, traveling the world, so what? I have created a life. So I might not have a life in your point, but I've actually created new life. And it's a bit like when you tune into a different radio channel, before you become a mother, it's more like, the disco channel, having fun, going out partying. It's a very easy life, and not so many obligations where, you have a child and you just turn into a different channel where, this is serious stuff, it's more about practical things and how to run a household and how to do it yourself, put up things like just doing, basic handy men or handy woman things around the house. You just have to figure it out. And just try, and worst thing that can happen is that you break the chair you're trying to fix or something. Move on. So I guess this single mom life has also made me so much stronger than I've ever imagined. And in times, sometimes you've been so tired, you felt so broken that you didn't know how to continue, and then you might just sleep for 1 hour and then keep going, or you reach out for help. That's been difficult for me in terms of, because I have always liked to do things on my own. I've competed in triathlons in a very young age where, you have to do things on your own. So my best tip to other solo mom is that you need to ask for help, and you need to continue asking for help, and you need to just expand that comfort zone in asking strangers for help. And that's okay. That's actually a strength, that the more help you can receive, it's benefiting your child. That's been a big lesson for me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
I think asking for help and figuring that out is a big one. I don't really have a lot of family help. My parents live far away. My sister lives pretty far away. And so, if I need help, I have to ask friends or pay for it. And I think you just have to do it.
Yeah, or swap services. I mean, what I experienced is that I thought I would be like, the one with the least resources. I would always be the one asking for help. Or I would be the one to do, they'll feel pity for me. But I've just learned that, I am a resource as well in this sort of, the local community, or in my daughter's new class now in school, where on Wednesdays, for instance, as I said, we go to yoga classes, and I'm offering to take one of the other children every Wednesday so that her parents, they can actually work 1 hour later. They only have to pick up their child at 5, where you should have to they have to pick up their child at 4. And then that way also you can make play dates where it's not just a single parent household where, you like play dates. If there's 2 parents, they enjoy having a place to put their child for 2 or 3 hours during the weekend so that they can just be together or they can do other things. So I guess it's important that we see, I can do this and I'm contributing just as much as the others, and see yourself as a resource. And that what you have to offer, it's a very valuable advice you give to others, because you have to become so good at managing all these practical things that we become sort of, strategically masters. I guess you just have to be smart, because you only have 24 hours and there's all these tasks that has to be done. And if you waste your time, just if you waste 2 or 3 minutes every day, you could be resting 2 or 3 minutes during that day. Right. So I become very strategic in everything I do. I don't just go down the stairs with the, garbage bags. I will prepare the garbage bags in the morning so that I will just take them down when we go anyway, and it's just common small steps all the time where you learn how to get most value out of 1 hour. In a way that you won't be stressed. So that it's just you strategically plan everything out in details. Right. And what I mean with this is that you can teach that to other families where, they might just think, oh, if there's a mother and a father, and the father is away during the weekend, this mom think, oh, I'm trying to be a single mom as well. And it's like, yeah, and not really, because you know that your husband will be back, Sunday evening, and you know that there's money in the bank account, you know that you can sleep 100%, you know that because there'll be another adult in the household. So I guess in the beginning I felt, a bit sad about, they don't really understand what it's like to be a sole parent. And then I sort of just let it go and think, but how could they? They wouldn't know. So I'll just tell them, this is what I need right now. And if you're willing to offer that in exchange or swap play dates, it's good. If not, I'll ask another family if they would think that what I have to offer is a benefit to them.
Yeah, I think it shifted for me a lot once we started sort of daycare and even preschool, because, I prefer to have two kids together. Oftentimes, like if I'm going to be alone, it's so much more fun with another kid. Like I took another friend's kid to the botanical garden here the other night, and it was so much more fun because we had him with us. So I'm often the one who does that, and then it gets reciprocated at some point. So I think that's, it's important to see that you're not just the one asking all the time. So, yeah. And what do you like least about being a mother, would you say?
Oh, well, I guess it's the amount of hard work, Sarah, honestly, because, sometimes when you're tired and you stand there and you do the dishes again on your own. I'm actually starting now that my daughter has to do more chores at home, and, she has to help, but it's not a lot. She's still young, but I can see that I have to start integrating her more. Otherwise I will end up being, a bit, sad and lonely in terms of all the housework. So I guess that's a way to just integrate our fun time in the weekend, that, I have to come up with some funny solution how that we can vacuum together or fold the clothes. Or, that's, it's the massive workload that's just ongoing. For instance, just, doing the laundry, as a single person, you would do laundry once a week and it would all be done neat and tidy, and that's it. Where when you have children, there's just so much laundry and you have to keep going, and it never stops, because if you finish one laundry, basket, you can be rest assured that within half an hour, someone spills something, caught you on the floor, or it's those things you just don't know, but it's just basic reality in a family. And and it takes so much time and energy to run this household. So if I could hire a nanny, that's what I would do, I guess, and feel good about. If I had money in terms of making my life easier, that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's part of, I think, I moved to Mexico, and it's so much cheaper to get help, and I have a cook now, and I have a cleaning lady twice a week, and it's like, it's so brilliant. So I have far fewer hours of school. School's a lot shorter, but I can sort of survive because all these other things are taken off my plate, so we get to spend a lot more time together, which is nice.
You are a smart woman, Sarah. It's a very smart move. Yeah.
It feels like a very smart move at this point.
Yeah.
So something we haven't talked about, or I haven't, and so if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But I was curious if you've been talking to your daughter about the sort of her donor origins and how that conversation's been going. And she's a little bit older than my child and a lot of my sort of friends with kids. So I'd love to hear how that's going. And
well, I've always decided to be open from the beginning, because, there's one parent, and she would see in other families there would be, most of the other families, there would be two parents. So from the very beginning, when she was 2 years old, I hired someone to draw some pictures so that I could explain the story. And I actually ended up, creating a children's book, which I then later published so other single moms, they could use this. So I've told her from the beginning that there are many families, and families can look in many different ways. And in our family, her mom wanted to become a mom, and she needed help from a man, and she got a sperm cell, and that's how she became pregnant. And then mommy and this child, they live happily ever after. So that's been sort of her story from the beginning. When I wrote this book, I deliberately, didn't tell her mommy could not find a man, so we could not become a real family. I had to have help. And so in the fairy tale version, or the fairy tale that I educated her started educating her up to, I did actually do that, what I wanted from the beginning, that this is a great family to begin with. Now she's older, she's almost 7, and I'm surprised that she's not interested at all in knowing about her donor. She doesn't give a, I was about cursing here, but she doesn't care. She doesn't really care. I have an extended profile, and some years ago I showed her the baby photo I have of donor, and she was like, I don't care, Mom. You're my family. I was like, okay, definitely true. And, but it's a very vulnerable topic. If, for instance, I know that other single moms, they see that this sperm donor or the genetic family is very important. And they seek, donor siblings and that. And I was like, I don't really feel that just because you share genetics that you're a family. I think a family is the one that you live with, or the one that loves you, the ones that support you. So in that way, I've chosen to go my own way and say, I'm not gonna put my daughter's donor number out there. I'm not gonna do a DNA profile on her. We are family, but also, I've chosen a non-anonymous sperm donor so that when she turns 18, if she wants to have contact with her sperm donor, go ahead. It's your choice. Be my guest. You can travel around the world. You can find maybe hundreds of siblings when you're ready and you want to, but it's not something I'm encouraging at this moment. Yeah.
And does she face questions from friends or anything at school around, like, why don't you have a dad? Or does she seem to just sort of not, it doesn't really faze her?
I've deliberately made her very strong in telling her story. And I'm also giving her the standard answers in terms of, no, I don't have a father. I have a mother and I have a grandmother. And then she would tell the other children, families can look in many different ways. So I've sort of continued writing children's books that she can bring to school at whatever appropriate age. And within the first week of her starting the new school, I gave her my latest book, which about all these different family types, and they read it in school. And I just realized that in her, there are 24 students in her class. And, we are solo mom family. There are divorced families. There's a boy who has 2 moms. So we already, even though I live sort of outside Copenhagen, and, this is not city at all, but it's just reality. Families do really look different ways. So I guess the best thing to do is, make sure that your child is proud about her or his family, and that they have these standard answers. And let them understand there's nothing wrong with them, even though many of the other families, they might have a mom and a dad and, 4 grandparents, just celebrate and honor what we do have. And we'll see what happens when she turns 18. You can interview her in 11 years and fear, your mom just screwed you up. You should have lived this way. But I really think that, we are a real family, and she should be proud and happy of us. And she is.
Awesome. That's great. And so tell us a little bit about your books and where we can find them. And so listeners can find them, because I know they're amazing. I have one.
Yeah, thank you.
Or 2, I guess I have even.
Well, I guess my website is just the easiest way. It's called happysolomom.com. And then they can find all the things I do. Yeah.
Okay, great. Did you want to say anything about that? So people, I know you're in Denmark.
Yeah, well, so just, English is my second language. So I do most of my work in Denmark, and I work with European women. But I have translated my books into different languages. And if the book is not in your language, it will be in English. So start with that, and then maybe just translate it and tell it in your own language, and use the pictures to sort of give your child an idea about reality. That's what I would like them to be brought up in the real world, and not put all these stupid fairy tales into our children so that they feel that there's something wrong with them because they don't live in a fairy tale version of a family, but make them be proud of whatever family type they have. That's good, and it's great, and we're all equal. Yeah.
Awesome. Any advice or anything else you want to add?
I've done a lot of sport, and I like the Nike slogan, just do it. It's simply just, and stop waiting, take responsibility, look at reality, be honest about what are you as a person. Are you into living a single life, and do you just perform best as a single person? Well, that's fine. Then it might be obvious that you should also have a child as a single person, and be be happy with who you are. I think I said that in the beginning, Sarah, where, be happy from the beginning. See this as this is a really good choice and celebrate it. And don't see it as a plan B, because this is a great plan.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you so much for joining us and for staying up late to chat with me. I know it was late on your end, so I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Great. And I hope everyone looks for your books. The link will be in the show notes. And yeah, we'll talk more in the months and years to come.
Definitely.
Okay. If you liked today's episode, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher to subscribe and leave a review. I so appreciate your support to spread the word about this project. If you'd like to hear more about my journey, please read my memoir, Motherhood Reimagined, When Becoming a Mother Doesn't Go as Planned. It's available everywhere books are sold. Bye for now.